The first thing you ever hack is the payment terminal at a grocery store in Novosibirsk. You're 14 years old. You do it because your mother has been standing in line for 20 minutes with bread, potatoes, and cooking oil in a basket she can't afford. Her card gets declined twice. There are 7 people behind her, and humiliation in a poor neighborhood travels faster than news. She works double shifts at a textile factory. She leaves before sunrise and comes back after dark with lint on her sleeves and pain in her knees she pretends not to have. The only thing she allows herself to believe is that her son will grow up into a life where cashiers don't look at him with pity. So while she's arguing quietly with the cashier, you step to the self-checkout kiosk 2 meters away. Open the store's local network from a second-hand laptop in your backpack. Find the terminal controller in 11 minutes. Reverse the decline flag on her transaction, reduce the total by 38%, and close the session before the receipt prints. Nobody notices. The cashier apologizes. Your mother pays. The line moves. She walks home in silence because silence is what adults use when they almost break in public and decide not to. That evening, she cooks the potatoes with onions and tells you everything will be fine next month. Then she reaches into her bag and pulls out a chocolate bar. It costs nearly an hour of wages. She breaks it in half and gives you the larger piece. You eat all of it because leaving any would be an insult to the money it represents. You start spending time on a Russian language forum for programmers. It's not a criminal space, not officially. It's a place where teenagers post benchmarks and crack software and little proofs that they're smarter than the adults who built the systems around them. Someone bypasses a subscription check on a streaming app. Someone else shows how to rewrite loyalty points inside a fast food chain's backend. Small things. Corporate enough that nobody imagines a victim with a face. You post about the grocery terminal. Not the exact method, just the concept. A retail payment system that trusted a local session it never should have trusted. You explain how you map the network, where the authentication broke, what you'd do differently next time. The post gets attention, not much. 29 replies, but one of them is a private message from an account with no avatar, no history, no signature. The message contains one sentence. You solve practical problems with improvised tools. We can improve your tools. Attached is a link. You should not open it. You open it. The package inside is extraordinary. Not public. Not even whispered about in the places where people whisper about things like this. Retail exploit modules. Memory scrapers. Traffic analyzers. A framework that fingerprints payment architecture on contact and suggests attack paths faster than you can think them through yourself. You don't understand all of it, but you've never needed to understand everything to learn faster than anyone around you. The anonymous user starts sending you assignments, small targets, a fuel station chain's customer database, a pharmacy distributor's invoice server, the regional backend for a supermarket rewards program. Each assignment comes with rules. Get in, document the exposure, touch nothing unrelated, change nothing unless instructed, report back and leave clean. Payment arrives in a cryptocurrency wallet you did not create. The first transfer is the equivalent of $1,100. Your mother makes $600 a month. You complete the first assignment in 4 hours from the same bedroom where the radiator clicks all winter and the wallpaper curls at the seams. You are 15 years old and you've just made almost twice your mother's monthly income without leaving your chair. You complete 13 assignments over the next 16 months. The targets escalate. Fuel stations become a national fuel distributor. Pharmacy invoices become a medical logistics network serving 5 regions. Supermarket rewards become the inventory system for a wholesale food importer that moves product through 3 ports. The payments escalate to 1,100, 2,400, 4,000, 9,000 for the importer job, which takes you 19 days and requires a custom privilege escalation chain you're privately proud of in the way only someone who builds elegant, illegal things can understand. You buy your mother a new refrigerator when the old one starts leaking onto the kitchen floor. You tell her you've been fixing database issues for foreign e-commerce clients. This is technically true in the same way that extortion is technically negotiation. She doesn't ask many questions because in Novosibirsk, sudden money is suspicious, but relief is stronger than suspicion when you spend enough years choosing between medicine and heat. You're 16. You have the equivalent of $51,000 in cryptocurrency. You understand retail infrastructure, payment processing, logistics software, and credential harvesting at a level most adults with university degrees don't reach for years, and you still don't know who you're working for. The anonymous user contacts you on a Thursday in October. The message is different. No target, no instructions, just an address in central Novosibirsk and a time, tomorrow, 1:30 p.m. You shouldn't go. You go. The office is on the 4th floor above a travel agency that closed 3 years ago. Inside it's clean and almost aggressively forgettable. 2 people are waiting. One woman in her late 40s wearing an expensive coat and a cheap expression, which is worse. One man younger than her with the posture of private security in the face of someone trained to look unimportant. The woman speaks. She knows your name, your real name. She knows your school attendance, your internet provider, the serial number of the laptop in your backpack, your mother's factory shift pattern, your sister's route home from school, which changes on Wednesdays because she stops for music lessons. She recites these things calmly, like restaurant reservations. Then she says you've done excellent work. She says the forum where you posted about the grocery terminal is monitored by her organization for one purpose only: talent identification. Everyone who demonstrates technical imagination gets evaluated. Most fail because they either brag too much, steal too much, or panic under pressure. You didn't. She says the assignments were not freelance work. They were admissions tests. She says that from this point forward, you belong to a commercial acquisition unit aligned with people whose names she does not say, because people like her don't waste names where leverage will do. The work will stay close to your current specialization at first: payment systems, supply chains, merchant processors. Then it will grow. The money will be excellent. Refusal is not discussed. It doesn't need to be. Your mother's factory, your sister's Wednesday route. The details she listed were not information. They were pressure points. You are 17. You now work for a Bratva-affiliated cyber operations group that specializes in retail payment compromise, logistics penetration, and financial extraction layered through legitimate commerce. You never meet the rest of the team. You don't know how many operators there are. Your encrypted channels rotate every 6 days. You receive targets, time windows, data requirements, and exfiltration formats. You get in. You map. You persist. You pull what they ask for and leave infrastructure in place for whatever comes next. Sometimes that means skimming payment data before it reaches settlement processors. Sometimes it means poisoning inventory records so trucks get rerouted and perishables disappear into warehouses controlled by front companies. Sometimes it means deploying ransomware into chains that sell food or medicine because urgency makes people pay faster when shelves start emptying. Sometimes it means exfiltrating contracts, supplier pricing, customs declarations, purchase forecasts. You don't know what part of the larger machine you're helping build. You know your piece. That's how systems like this survive. Compartmentalization is not just security, it's architecture. At 18, they relocate you. Not a suggestion, an execution of logistics. Men arrive with hard cases and inventory sheets. Your apartment is packed in 3 hours. Your secondhand laptop disappears into foam padding and is replaced with equipment worth more than the building you've lived in your whole life. You're moved to Kazan, to a service flat registered under a corporation that exists only long enough to sign leases and disappear. The utilities are in another name. The internet contract routes through a chain of shell providers. The phone waiting on the desk is new and empty, except for one secure application. Within 10 days, you notice something strange. Your old email account doesn't reject your password. It says the account never existed. Your school portal login returns no record. Your tax number resolves to a dead database reference. Your social profiles are gone. Not suspended, not wiped, folded inward like they were never created. You run yourself through every lookup tool you have. Photo matching, cache recovery, archive pulls, leaked credential dumps, state service mirrors. You don't exist in any coherent way. When you contact the woman through the secure channel, she responds with 5 words. Operationally, this is preferable. You understand exactly what she means. A person who cannot be tied to a legal identity is difficult to indict, difficult to sanction, difficult to deliver to another jurisdiction. But a person without an identity also cannot rent an apartment, open a bank account, board a plane, or buy a train ticket that survives scrutiny. Ghosts are useful to the people who own them. Ghosts are less useful to themselves. You haven't spoken to your mother in 5 months. The number you had for her no longer connects. Her employment file still exists. Her utility payments still process. Her address hasn't changed. She's alive. She's there. But you cannot contact her from any channel that can be tied back to a physical person, because physical people are precisely what they removed you from becoming. Your mother is a 6-hour drive away and as unreachable as another century. The distance isn't geographical, it's administrative. You work for 2 more years. You work. The targets grow more sophisticated and more dangerous. Payment processors serving Eastern Europe, warehouse robotics vendors, customs brokers handling bonded goods entering the EU, a multinational supermarket chain's regional treasury network. You're not just stealing card data anymore. You're shaping the movement of food, medicine, and money across borders in ways consumers interpret as inflation, shortages, bad weather, labor strikes, unfortunate delays. You are learning that modern theft rarely looks like a man with a gun. It looks like a spreadsheet changing value in the dark. The money compounds in wallets you can view but not meaningfully enjoy. You pass the equivalent of $1.3 million before your 20th birthday. You still receive weekly cash in an envelope under the door. Enough for food, rent already covered, a little extra for clothing if you're careful. Nothing that would let you become independent. Nothing that would let you build a life outside the one assigned to you. A comfortable ghost is expensive. A dependent ghost is efficient. At 20, you start planning. Not escape exactly. Audit. You want to know what was done to you, and more importantly, what paper and code were used to do it. You've avoided touching their internal systems because touching them is the single prohibition that has never been phrased twice. But you are better now than you were at 17. Better than at 18. Better maybe than the people who built their internal trust assumptions years ago and never imagined one of their own assets would someday interrogate the machine from the inside. You work slowly, quietly. Over 4 months, you develop a side-channel approach against their secure relay infrastructure by correlating packet timing irregularities with task dispatch loads across mirrored nodes. You don't decrypt content, you infer relationships. Which operator IDs accessed which routing bundles, which handlers signed off on relocations, which identity packets were propagated downstream into municipal and federal systems. You map the organization the way a cartographer maps a city from sewer pressure and power usage without ever seeing it from above. In the fifth month, you find the file set attached to your operator designation. It isn't stored on the primary relay cluster. It's archived on a segmented document repository in Nizhny Novgorod that only briefly touches the secure network when field auditors sync hardware tokens every quarter. You compromise one of the tokens through a firmware update distributed to a maintenance contractor 3 weeks earlier. The file package takes 47 minutes to reconstruct. When it opens, there are 16 documents: your recruitment review, your skill evaluations, payment authorizations, relocation approvals, identity suppression directives. And beneath them, the document you were never meant to see: a guardianship transfer request filed in your city 14 months earlier. It states that your mother suffered a psychiatric collapse after the documented suicide of her son and was judged temporarily incapable of managing household affairs. Financial control over her apartment and benefits was assigned to a municipal trustee attached to a welfare office that does not, in any practical sense, exist. There are attachments: medical notes from a doctor who signed 3 impossible consultations in 2 cities on the same day. Utility arrears notices generated after her bills had already been paid. A petition to move her to assisted accommodation outside the city due to instability and debt risk. Then a final page: approved relocation. You sit perfectly still at your desk in Kazan and feel your hands go cold. They didn't just erase you. They used your disappearance to take your mother apart administratively. She buried a son who wasn't dead, and while she was trying to survive that, people connected to your employers moved her through the system like damaged property. There is a surveillance image in the archive: your mother outside a provincial care facility, 200 kilometers from Novosibirsk. She's sitting on a bench in a winter coat that is not hers because it doesn't fit her shoulders. Her hair is thinner. Her face is turned away from the camera. Next to her is your sister speaking to a clerk through a window slot. Your sister is older than the last memory you have of her. Of course she is. Memory doesn't keep people the same. It only keeps them still. You have root access into payment processors, customs brokers, and distribution chains that feed millions of people. You can reroute refrigerated trucks between countries. You can drain settlement batches before sunrise. You can lock down warehouse management platforms across 3 time zones. And you cannot walk up to a building in your own country and ask your mother if she is warm, if she is eating, if she still leaves a light on. Because to everyone who matters on paper, you are dead. To everyone who owns your life, that is a feature. You spend 7 months building something more difficult than any exploit you've ever written. Not malware, not persistence, restoration. You need an identity, yes, but not only for yourself. You need pathways back into the state for the 2 people they used against you. You construct a new legal self under a different name through fragmented civil databases, a dissolved vocational institute, and an archived military exemption list that was digitized badly enough to trust your corrections. Then you build a second layer: advocacy records, benefit appeals, medical review requests, transport reimbursement claims, tiny bureaucratic handles that allow one forgotten person to be pulled back toward visibility. You also build insurance, 14 months of operational data, handler communications, wallet chains, customs manipulations, ransomware deployment logs, lists of shell companies tied to food diversion, identity suppression files, procurement bribes, court clerks paid through relatives. You encrypt the archive, split it, and distribute it across 18 dead man switches in 9 countries. If you fail to check in every 60 hours, the package goes to Interpol, Europol, the FBI Cyber Division, the German Federal Criminal Police Office, 3 investigative newspapers, and a watchdog nonprofit that specializes in supply chain corruption. The switches are independent. They don't know where all of them are because no one place ever did. Some are on rented servers under disposable identities. Some are hidden inside neglected academic infrastructure. One is buried in backup storage purchased years ago by a travel startup that no longer exists but still pays for cloud retention because nobody remembered to stop the card. You built the system the same way they built your captivity, redundantly, quietly, without a single point of mercy. You are not safe, but you become expensive to eliminate. In organizations like theirs, expensive is often enough. You leave Kazan on a Monday before dawn. You don't use the apartment elevator because elevators have cameras and habits. You take the stairs. One backpack, one laptop, cash, the new passport, a folder containing printed case references and administrative appeals prepared under names that can survive first contact with a clerk. You don't send a resignation. You stop replying. Silence is the only language institutions like this hear, as either surrender or defiance, and you intend to let them guess which one. The train to Perm takes 13 hours. The bus from Perm to the town where your mother was moved takes another 4. Rain follows you the second day. Cheap stations, cracked windows, coffee from machines that taste like metal. You haven't seen your mother in almost 4 years. You haven't legally existed in 2.5. The person moving through those stations is not the boy who altered a grocery receipt so his mother wouldn't be embarrassed in public. That boy believes systems could be tricked. This person knows systems can be weaponized. And sometimes the only way to beat one is to become more patient than it is cruel. The care facility is a converted administrative building behind a chain-link fence. The paint is peeling. The security camera above the entrance is fake. You know it's fake because the casing is too clean and the cable doesn't terminate anywhere real. Institutions that look neglected but still want obedience often fake the parts of oversight that are too expensive to maintain. You stand outside the entrance in the rain and notice something on the second floor. One window has a curtain pinned back with a clothespin. All the others are shut tight. That one window is open 2 fingers wide despite the weather. There's no reason for it to be open unless someone opens it every day. Unless someone sits by it waiting for air or noise or the possibility of seeing a familiar shape pass through the courtyard. Unless someone who lost a son to a lie has learned to leave one small opening in the world because sealing everything completely would feel too much like agreeing. You go inside. A clerk behind reinforced glass asks for identification. You give the new passport. She checks a screen so old the backlight flickers. She asks who you're here to see. You tell her your mother's name. She says there is no resident by that name. Of course there isn't. Not anymore. Not officially. You slide the folder through the opening under the glass. Medical review request. Benefit reinstatement notice. Transportation appeal. 2 corrected registry extracts. A court query number from a district office 3 regions away. Paper has a power computer's respect even when people don't. The clerk looks annoyed, then uncertain, then careful. She makes a phone call. 10 minutes later, your sister comes down the hallway behind the security door. She stops when she sees you, doesn't wave, doesn't speak, just stops moving the way people stop moving when reality arrives, wearing the face of someone they buried in their head years ago because it was the only version available to them. She's taller than you remember. Of course she is. She stares at you for a long time, and what passes across her face isn't joy first. It's anger, then disbelief, then something far worse than either. Relief so sudden it looks painful. She opens the door, walks straight up to you, hits your chest once with the side of her fist, hard enough to mean you deserved every day of her grief, even if none of it was your choice. Then she grabs your jacket and doesn't let go. She says one sentence. She's upstairs. Your mother is sitting by the open window with a blanket over her knees. The room smells like overboiled cabbage, disinfectant, and old radiator heat. She turns when you enter. For a second, nothing in her face changes because the brain protects itself from impossible things by refusing them. Then she stands too fast. The chair tips backward. Your sister catches it before it hits the floor. Your mother takes 3 steps toward you and stops close enough to touch, but not touching yet. Like the air between a dead sun and a living one might still contain some trick. Then she reaches up and puts her fingers against your throat. Not your cheek, your throat. She feels for warmth and pulse at the same time. She says one word, alive. That's how she knows. Not by your face. Faces can be in photographs. Not by your voice. Voices can be recorded and played through telephones and lies. By the pulse under her fingers. The dead don't have one. Bureaucracies can kill a person on paper. They cannot counterfeit a heartbeat under a mother's hand. She doesn't cry immediately. She exhales like someone setting down a weight that was fused to her spine. Then she folds against you, and the 3 of you stand there in a room with peeling paint and state-issued furniture while rain taps the open window and nobody says anything useful. Because useful language is for forms and offices and people who still think the world can be made orderly by naming it correctly. Later, your sister brings tea in chip cups from a shared kitchenette at the end of the hall. Your mother makes you eat 2 slices of black bread she has saved in a drawer because institutional food disappears quickly and saved food means control. She doesn't ask where you've been. She doesn't ask what happened. She doesn't ask how a dead son walked into her room under another name carrying government papers that suddenly make nurses speak politely. Because a mother who has read every school note and every birthday card her son ever wrote knows when reality has been edited around him. She may not know the mechanics. She may not know how databases were changed, or signatures forged, or which offices got paid to look away. But she knows the difference between absence and theft. She knew something had been stolen from her long before she knew what to call it. You spend the next 8 months in motion. Court offices, appeals, medical evaluations, housing review boards, benefit restorations. Quiet payments in envelopes where law is slow and pity is faster. You use your skills carefully now, not to build empires for men you've never met, but to pull records into alignment just enough that truth can survive contact with bureaucracy. Your mother is moved back to Novosibirsk. Your sister gets the scholarship support she almost lost when family status records change after your manufactured death. The apartment isn't taken because by the time anyone with authority notices, the paperwork is now too entangled, too visible, too well copied to disappear neatly. You live under the new identity in a small rented room 2 districts away. You repair networks for shops and clinics and wholesalers that need secure systems but prefer cash invoices and no questions. Cash only, minimal footprint. The Bratva knows you're alive. The dead man switches ensure they also understand the exchange rate between touching you and losing everything they built through years of theft hidden inside ordinary commerce. You exist now in a narrow space between exposed and untouchable. It isn't freedom, not fully, but on Sundays you ride the bus to your mother's apartment. Your sister is there most weeks. Your mother keeps the kitchen window open a little even in cold weather because she says stale air makes a room feel abandoned. You know what she means. You sit at the table and eat potatoes fried with onions and black bread, and sometimes, when money allows, slices of sausage she pretends were discounted more than they were. The most advanced payment systems hacker the Bratva ever recruited now spends Sunday afternoons tightening router settings for neighborhood businesses, carrying groceries up 3 flights of stairs, and listening to his mother complain that politicians lie badly and should at least put more effort into it. And for the first time in years, when a card reader beeps in a store or a terminal flashes approved on a screen, you don't feel the thrill of systems bending under your hands. You feel something smaller and better. Relief. The kind that doesn't come from encryption or leverage or 18 hidden servers. The kind that comes from a kitchen window left open 2 fingers wide. That wraps it up for today. This story is entirely fictional, but the recruitment of technically gifted teenagers into criminal cyber operations and the use of digital systems to manipulate identity, finance, and logistics is extensively documented by cybersecurity researchers and law enforcement agencies around the world. If you thought this one was heading somewhere darker or more violent, tell me in the comments what ending you expected. Subscribe for more. See you in the next one.